The cold winds howled like a wounded beast. A barren, ice-choked wasteland stretched as far as the eye could see. Hecra 7, a planet untouched by warmth, unforgiving to the unprepared. In the heart of this merciless tundra, a single human stood. Lieutenant Jack Halvorson. He pulled his frosted breath mask tighter against his face, watching the horizon where the enemy would come. And they would come. Because they always did. The last human on Hecra 7. Jack was alone. His unit, the 22nd Colonial Marine Division, had once held this frozen wasteland with an iron grip. Now they were gone. Some had been killed. Others taken. A few had fled, but not him. I don't run. That's what he had told Captain Maraca before the last dropship left orbit. Now he was the only human left on Hecra 7. And he had one job. Hold the line. The Corthian offensive. Jack knelt in the snow-blasted trench, gripping his rifle, eyes scanning the blizzard-laden darkness. The Corthians would come soon. Tall, six-limbed, insectoid, and hungry for conquest. They had been trying to break through this sector for months. Hecra 7 was a strategic choke point. If the Corthians took it, they would have a clear route to the inner colonies. They couldn't be allowed to win. Not while Jack still breathed. Thud. A sound echoed through the frigid night. Distant. Heavy. Coming closer. Jack tightened his grip on the rifle. Showtime. The first wave. They emerged from the storm like shadows in the frost. Dark carapaces. Six-legged war machines. Their chitinous armor glistened in the low light. Jack counted at least 40. Maybe more. Too many. His hands didn't shake. His breathing didn't waver. He adjusted his rifle. Took aim. And fired the first shot. A Corthian screeched as the plasma round found its mark, burning through its thorax. The rest charged. Jack didn't retreat. He stood his ground. Alone. And fought. The charge. Jack Halvorson had fought in dozens of battles, but none as lopsided as this. The Corthians surged through the icy wasteland, a black tide of claws, mandibles and plasma fire. Jack didn't move. His rifle kicked against his shoulder as he unleashed a rain of fire into their ranks. Pick your shots. Don't waste rounds. Make every hit count. A Corthian brute, nearly twice the size of the others, charged through the storm, its armored hide thick enough to withstand small arms fire. Jack switched to high-impact rounds and fired. Boom. The brute's head snapped back. A moment later it collapsed into the snow, twitching. But for every Corthian that fell, 3 more took its place. And Jack? He was just one man. The ice fights back. The Corthians pushed forward, relentless and unstoppable. Jack backpedaled, his boots sinking into the frozen ground. Can't hold forever. Need an advantage. Then he saw it. A massive ice ridge behind the Corthian charge. A natural weak point. Jack slid into cover, yanking a set of explosives from his belt. Only one chance. He set the charge against the ice formation and activated the timer. 5 seconds. Jack sprinted away as the ice detonated with a deafening roar. The ridge collapsed, burying half the Corthian force under tons of frozen debris. A moment of silence. Then a deafening screech. The survivors kept coming. Jack cursed under his breath. They never stop. The last stand. Jack's magazine clicked empty. His sidearm was frozen. The Corthians closed in. One leaped, mandibles open, claws outstretched. Jack drew his combat knife and plunged it deep into the creature's throat. Another lunged. Jack ducked, drove the knife upward, twisting as alien blood splattered against the snow. One against many. And yet he fought. Because that's what humans did. Hope arrives. Then, a new sound. A roaring engine. A ship. Jack looked up as a dropship broke through the storm. The Union emblem was emblazoned across its hull. Reinforcements. Turrets on the dropship's hull opened fire, ripping into the Corthians with relentless firepower. Jack dropped to one knee, exhausted, bleeding and covered in alien gore. As the last Corthian fell, he exhaled, his breath turning to frost in the air. Then the ship landed and figures rushed toward him. Lieutenant Halvorson? He looked up. Humans. And aliens. Soldiers of the Galactic Union. They had come for him. Finally. The rescue. Jack Halvorson barely felt his body as the rescue team pulled him to his feet. His vision swam, his head pounded, and his limbs ached from exhaustion and cold. How long had he been fighting? How long had he been alone? A medic pressed a heated blanket around his shoulders, but he barely noticed. His eyes were still on the battlefield, on the dead Corthians littering the snow, the wreckage of war machines, the blood frozen in jagged black streaks across the ice. And on the horizon, more shadows moved in the storm. They weren't finished yet. "We have to go. Lieutenant, you're coming with us." A Zalari officer, tall, slender, with violet skin and glowing cybernetic eyes, knelt beside him, her voice urgent. Jack shook his head. "No. We have to hold." The officer frowned. "Hold? You're the last human left on Hekara 7. Jack forced himself to stand, swaying slightly. His body begged him to stop. But his duty wouldn't let him. "They're coming again. If we leave, they'll take this planet." The Zalari's expression darkened. "There's no one left to fight." Jack gritted his teeth. He looked at the soldiers who had come for him, Union troopers, mostly Zalari and a few Renaki, all staring at him like he was insane. They weren't here to fight. They were here to evacuate him. "They think it's over." But Jack knew better. It's never over. The Korthian counterattack. Then the warning sirens blared. Incoming hostiles. Jack grabbed a fallen trooper's rifle and turned toward the storm. The Korthians weren't retreating. They were regrouping. Hundreds of black carapace warriors emerged from the snowstorm, their glowing red eyes locked onto the landing zone. And behind them, a towering siege beast. A 3-story monstrosity, covered in thick armor, its back bristling with plasma cannons. Jack felt his stomach drop. "That's new." The Zalari officer cursed. "We have to leave now?" Jack didn't move. He raised his weapon. "No. We fight." The alien soldiers stared at him. They were Union troops, trained for controlled engagements, not the brutal, no-hope fighting humans specialized in. "Lieutenant," the officer snapped, "we don't stand a chance." Jack gave her a bloody grin. "Then we make it hurt." The frozen war rages on. The Korthians charged. Plasma fire lit up the night. Jack led the counterattack, his rifle spitting death. He moved like a man who had nothing left to lose. He dived, rolled, fired, reloaded, tore through the enemy like a force of nature. And the Union soldiers followed him. What had been an evacuation mission had turned into a last stand. Jack saw the siege beast powering up its cannons. If that thing fires, we're all dead. His mind raced. Think Halvorsen. Use the terrain. Then he saw it. A weak point. The cliffs above the battlefield, lined with massive icicles. A perfect avalanche trigger. Jack grabbed a fallen detonator. Only one shot. He aimed at the ice shelf. Pulled the trigger. Boom. The mountain roared. Tons of ice and rock crashed down, crushing the Korthian forces. And burying the siege beast. Silence. Then cheers erupted. They had won. Jack dropped to his knees, gasping. His body finally gave out. The Zalari officer caught him before he fell. "You're insane, Halvorsen." Jack grinned through bloodied teeth. "Yeah. But it worked." The aftermath. Jack Halvorsen woke up to blinding lights and the sterile scent of antiseptic. He was lying in a Union medical bay, wrapped in regenerative bandages, hooked up to IVs. His body ached in ways he didn't think were possible. How long had it been? Did we make it? A soft chime sounded and the door hissed open. A familiar face entered, Commander Silena of the Zalari Union. She looked down at him with an expression of deep respect and disbelief. "You're awake. Most thought you wouldn't make it." Jack grunted, forcing himself to sit up. "Takes more than a frozen hell's cape and an alien horde to kill me." Silena smirked. "So it seems." She set a small metal box on the table beside him. "The Union wanted me to deliver this personally." Jack eyed it warily. "What is it?" Silena pressed a button. With a soft click, the box opened, revealing a glowing, silver-blue medallion. The Galactic Service Medal. Jack stared at it. "They're actually giving me one?" The highest honor the Union could bestow. Given to those who had made extraordinary sacrifices for the galaxy. Only one human had ever received it before. "And now I'm the second." Jack shook his head. "I didn't do this for medals." Silena nodded. "I know. That's why you deserve it." A soldier's reflection. Jack held the medal in his hands. It was heavier than he expected. How many lives were lost for this? How many friends didn't make it home? He could still hear their voices in the cold. Could still see the frozen battlefield when he closed his eyes. He exhaled slowly. "So, what now?" Silena hesitated. "The war isn't over, Jack." His grip on the medal tightened. Of course it wasn't. There was always another fight. Another battle. Another war that needed to be won. And they'd ask the humans to fight it. Because humans never gave up. Humans held the line when no one else could. Humans sacrificed everything, even their own peace so that others could have it. The call to action. Jack looked at Silena, then back at the metal. A part of him wanted to rest, wanted to finally be done with war. But another part, the soldier in him, knew the truth. If I don't fight, someone else will have to. Someone who might not make it home. He sighed. Tell me where they need me next. Silena smiled. I thought you'd say that. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. Jack, you aren't just a soldier anymore. You're a legend now. Jack chuckled, shaking his head. Legends don't bleed this much. But he followed her anyway. Because he wasn't done yet. And as long as there was a war to fight, the humans would always stand. The Void Narratives. Jack Halvorson's story wasn't over. And neither are the countless untold stories of human resilience. Subscribe to the Void Narratives for more incredible HFY tales of courage, war, and survival. Because humans don't just fight wars. They win them.